like all the best design cues of the RF. We're super proud of finally unveiling this vehicle. Obviously, from the past generation, we kind of gave up the smile. You can see, the front face is going much more sophisticated. But even so, the RF compared to the soft top, we're broadening the audience. And we've done focus groups where a lot of the current MX-5 soft top buyer wouldn't maybe consider this one, even though they think it's really cool, because the soft top is really for the purist kind of two-seater experience. But what we realized, there's so much more broader audience where people that will never consider a two-seater that now look at this vehicle to be like, I could drive this in the city. I don't have to be in the PCH. This is really a complete different experience that we're able to accomplish. So the way we kind of did it is, from day one, designers kind of never entertained this kind of double top and have this the retractable fastback kind of landing vertical on the body. We've always considered having this kind of buttress scenarios, and the idea is to really kind of transfer all of the volumes rearward to give you this kind of dynamism. The other thing that it does is when you look at the overall silhouette, it compares to a lot of the classic, Italian vehicle from the 50s and 60s that stayed embedded, kind of into your mind, and it's such easy to fall in love with that silhouette. So again, it's more of that coupe-like aesthetic that we're trying to target. So what's very interesting is we work really hard, designers and engineers together, on how to put this thing together. One thing we're super proud of is how did we achieve actually this cut line. And most of other manufacturers, that shut line is actually a lot lower from a packaging issue, which kind of defragment the whole three-quarter panel, and you kind of lose the whole thematic. What we've done is able to compress all of the hardware in such ways we move that shut line into that crisp where those two surfaces kind of meet. So when you walk through the vehicle, that shut line actually disappears, which is pretty amazing because you have that whole quarter panel looking like very much seamless. Now, from a graphic standpoint, obviously we didn't want to land, again, vertical here. We had to stretch it. Even if this is black out to not see the hardware, it really helps for the car to all feel a lot more of that kind of rear dynamism. Something else very interesting with the vehicle, we want for you to fall in love with the vehicle, we want your eyes to contain the volume. So there is so much plan view in all of the lines. You can see that from the front, on the hood, reflection-based surfacing, everything is very circular, and even the ratio of where the placement of the tail lamps are really much centered to the vehicle, and you have this pretty kind of consequent offset between the wheel lip. All of this is to really accentuate this kind of concentric dynamism from top view. So your eyes really circle the car very quickly and help for this kind of irrational seduction. I can go in there and show you the cinematic of opening. And go back up again. Obviously, the experience is, very much contrasted. If you want to go on a PCH and have this kind of exposure, to the airflow, put the top down. But when you put the top up, obviously the experience will be much more isolated. The NVH noise have been reduced considerably on this vehicle. So I think that, again, the target is much broader. We have people that never thought about buying a two-seater sports car. From an interior perspective, not much has changed with the MX-5 soft top. We do have one grade with the Napa leather. We have a bigger LCD screen on the left of the gauges. And then we see you have kind of the switch to open the whole thing up and down. So yeah, if you have any other question, feel free to walk around. I can take some few questions now and then, yeah.
Is there any safety benefit or structural benefit to this top?
Well, the structure for the rollover, you still have this kind of a headrest structure. So that will be your main protection if you're rolled over. Obviously, this would allow for more protection, even though from a crash perspective, you still have the headrest back to.
Is there a rating for the roof load? So if you were going to carry a surfboard or something like that?
I don't know this.
We'll look into that. We'll get back to you on that one, Jason.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
In terms of trunk, you losing how much trunk space you losing?
Again, no. This is pretty amazing. We're able to package everything into a really nice bento box in the middle. So from a volume standpoint, nothing has been lost, actually.
Roughly the weight difference?
The weight is about a child sitting next to you on the passenger seat. What, 7, 8 years old?
Over 100 pounds.
100 pounds, yeah.
Yeah.
And the balance ratio is very much the same. We talk about the 50-50 to get the perfect driving dynamics. Obviously, even though some of the weight could be transferred slightly to the back, it depends on the amount of gas that you put in the gas tank, more or less. But it's still very much a 50-50 driving dynamic scenario.
What was your all's take before with the hardtop? Was it, you expected higher this time, 60-40?
Initially, it was relatively low. As the third generation of MX-5 went on in time, it became higher and higher and higher. It was a predominance of the vehicles at the end were power retractable hardtop models. I think that's somewhat of what happens with this segment in particular. Is as it went on further, it became perhaps less of a sports car and more of a touring car, and so we saw a greater preponderance of the retractable hardtop models at that point. This and the soft top are two very different vehicles. They simply have a different personality. You'll find that when you drive it. The soft top is much more of a true sports car, as Julian said. This is a little bit more of a GT type experience because you do have. It feels more like a coupe experience because of the sound deadening differences. You'll find that when you drive it. It definitely has two different personalities, whether it's top up or top down as well.
For that reason, did you look at things like exhaust to see whether you would tune that differently?
I actually don't know the answer to that, Stan. Do you know the answer to that? We'll find an answer for you. We'll find an answer for you. I know that we have spent an awful lot of time on exhaust tuning. And look at all the things that Dave went into yesterday as we talked about details of just controlling wind noise, for example, and NVH issues. So tuning is critical. This car, probably more than any vehicle that we build, purely because it's built to have you literally plugged into the vehicle and become one with the car when you drive it. But we'll find an answer for you on that.
Thank you.
Jeremy, does the female take tend to be much higher for this? I mean, guys are willing to yank the soft top over you, but you get a much higher female take with this?
On the outgoing car, we did. On the third generation car, we did indeed. And some of that is also a perception of safety. Just physically having something that's a little bit more solid around you. If you're in a you're in a downtown area, you feel potentially you could feel less safe. It's not dissimilar to the perception of safety that comes with an SUV with that slightly higher driving position as well. You feel you've got greater visibility. The concept of having things around you, so yes, it does lend itself towards that.
What was the mile an hour up to what mile per hour?
6. Yeah. So we encourage you, the tops will all be up when you go out to the cars. We encourage you to start off with top up so you can get a sense for how quiet it is with the top up, and then eventually go ahead and lower the top whenever you guys would like. Definitely experience growth.
These are all GTs out here?
Yes.
But this comes in the full trim line, just like the
Yes.
soft?
Yeah.
No sport.
Or no sports, sorry.
So
yeah.
it comes in plug and
Club and GT.
Oh, Club and GT.
Yeah. And again, the launch editions, when we first, the pre-sale, we sold all 1,000 within a week. So these are also in the dealership now. Starting price is $31,555.
Is that higher than before?
Yes. So the old one had about an $1,800 price difference. This one the marketing studies, there was definitely a solid look of how to price it, and this definitely has a lot more premium look to it relative to when the top is down on the old PHRT. It looks just like another soft top. So there was some pricing power in that.
So Jacob, the price differences between the soft top and this one?
Yes, relative to the model it's based on. So GT or Club, it's about a $2,600 difference.
That's a big jump. 800, 2,600, right?
The top material, you mentioned it. Is it aluminum or steel?
It's aluminum, yeah. Super lightweight. Yeah.
How many do you typically sell? You mentioned the 60 for this and
60/40, yeah.
So what is it?
Last month we sold a little over 1,000. It kind of ranges anywhere from average sales of total MX-5 is anywhere from 600 up to 1,100 maybe, depending on the season. So take that 60/40.
It is obviously a very seasonable car.
Yeah.
Right. Given the weather changes over the last couple of months, the fact that it hasn't been as cold as it historically would be across the Midwest and the East Coast. Quite frankly, we've had a couple of very surprisingly successful months, sales-wise, given that it's middle of winter. And it's a relatively limited use vehicle in as much as it's a rear-wheel drive sports car with not a lot of ground clearance. It's not something you would necessarily buy when there's 8 feet of snow on the ground. But obviously, it is very seasonal. As through the summer, we expect to see sales pick up a little bit from there.
Julian, in terms of just the on the line when you're manufacturing this, you're just replacing this middle piece, the rear fascia door. Nothing changes. You're just replacing this middle section.
Yeah, actually, all of what you see in the back has been replaced. Obviously, we kept the door, but all of this is all new. Yeah.
Nothing changes rear fascia. You don't have to change any of that.
No, we kept the lamp, we kept the lower bumper, but all of those trim, even the trunk, the cutout and everything lands, it's all different. And the idea is really to always be kind of submissive to the reflection, meaning like all of those shut line, the reflection should be the master of how you fall in love with the vehicle because of the rhythm that they draw around the vehicle. So those shut lines should not contradict, the beauty of those reflection, and that's why we kind of articulate all of the shut line accordingly. Design cues and the challenges behind the development with design and engineering to do this great car. So I hope that first time you see it, you can see that it's a Mazda, but yet the expression has been very different than like a new CX-9 or a new CX-5, right? Basically, Mazda design is trying to broaden its expression and tonality between two feeling, the N and the RIN. Usually the first thing that comes into your eyes is the way we treat surfaces. So in the CX-9 and CX-5, the car is very much like a blade. You have like some really kind of angular, sharp front end. We're trying to light up the front end and bring all of that power into the rear wheel, which we call traction form. Within the soft top, the RF, and also the Vision that you've seen as a concept car, we are working as a new kind of design philosophy of the surface treatment, which is called the surface-based, reflection-based surfacing. And what it does is we really do study how is the environment going to reflect on the vehicle. In the past, the designers have always, when they stretch a line, that line is usually a hard edge. And so what we're doing is actually moving away from this and have something a lot more kind of organic. And when you have something organic, the only thing you can really judge the car is how is that building or that horizon line is going to reflect on the bodywork. So on the RF, obviously, what we had for us is an amazing package to start with. The idea is always to seduce the eyes, this kind of, showcasing this irrational seduction. In terms of proportion, everyone has in his mind like a reference to a classic car, from the Italian in the 60s, right? And, we wanted to hit that tone. When you see it, you have to fall in love with it. And quite frankly, it's about you containing the volumes. So when you look at the vehicle, a lot of those lines and those volumes kind of circle around the vehicle. I mean, you have it on the hood, but then all the way on the side and all around graphically, you have so much plenitude that at first glance, the whole car is contained as a circle above the car, and which seduces the eyes very well. Instead of having the typical, kind of square type of ratio, you have something that's a lot more round. So design never, when we started to work on this car, we never approached the retractable fastback as a bubble top like it was in the previous model. We've only entertained a stretched fastback to create more kind of dynamism to it, which created a lot of friction with engineering to start with, because obviously the first question, like, well, you can't fold that much mass if you go with like those buttress scenario. So we sat down with the engineers, for many months to see how can we break up that volumes, and at the same time not compromise the space in the trunk. And today the space in the trunk is actually the same as the soft tops. So yeah, from a basically volume standpoint, what you can see is like we wanted to stretch and create an offset, even though the soft top is really 50-50, which is on numbers 50-50. Here we're very close. But visually, we wanted to create an offset and really push the whole cabin backwards to still give a lot of kind of this real kind of dynamic traction form into the rear wheel. The entire kind of this quarter panel, we're trying to contain these volumes. So when you look at the car from three-quarter rear, we have really nice tangencies, which really kind of, again, empower the wheel arcs instead of having this kind of having very much vertical. From a graphic standpoint, on the window graphics contouring, we actually push the graphics real, in order to accentuate this dynamism to it. Something we're very, very proud is actually, this line right here. Most of our competitors are doing a retractable fastback. That line is actually a lot lower for mechanical reasons. So we work really hard to actually put it right on the crisp, which is those two surfacing creating a small dish. So when you walk through the car, actually this line disappears. So it doesn't look like that volume is kind of fragmented. It does look like very fluid. So that is a huge achievement within engineering, pushing the boundaries of mechanics and manufacturing. So the roof folds, in few parts. I'll try to do it from here. Pretty cool, right? There's definitely like a wow factor. I mean, when you see like all those, three parts coming up, together and, folding like a perfect bento box, in the back.
Motors issues, you had worked there about 15 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty amazing mechanism. It doesn't weigh very much. Still adds up to the soft top, but it's quite minimal. I think the whole weight is about the weight of an infant, sitting next to you. So it's pretty minimum. Obviously, even though we have the buttress, we're trying to push them as far back as possible. We still have to kind of go back in order to fit, all of the mass down below. In terms of the interior, not much has changed, even though we do have the Napa leather. So we're trying to improve, again, the craftsmanship. On the interior, we have a bigger, I think, LCD screen on the left gauges. Obviously, we have, the switch and so on to open the retractable. But yeah, overall, obviously, it is still based on an MX-5 soft top. But having, added this kind of component to it and stretch it, blend it nicely towards the rear, give you an impression it's completely different. And I think we hit the mark of this kind of sensitive, classical automotive, but yet in a modern way. And I think it's easy to fall in love with this car. And it's completely different than a CX-9 or a CX-5, the way it is treated. And this is kind of where the brand is going, is we want to broaden that expression. One's going to be much more on the purity, and this is kind of the Japanese take on purity, intensity through purity, you don't have many lines. You don't have many character lines to make the car feel animalistic and powerful. It's all about just sexiness and beauty. And on the other side, the alluring side of Japan is CX-9 and CX-5, which is much more, in a way, aggressive in its direction. It's very much, kind of a linear kind of penetration through the air.
So I'm confused. Yesterday, when we were talking about the CX-5, that was the direction that Mazda was going. Today, you said this is the direction Mazda's going. Which way are you going?
Well, we have two directions. They both have purity into it, but the expression and the surface work is very much different. One is a lot crisper. If you look at the line, look at the new body side on the CX-5, it's almost kind of flat, and you have this edge. It's really, really crisp. The front face is kind of a blade, that defragmented look, to really show the depth of the grille, the way the whole hood is folded. You have an extreme kind of sharpness to it. You can see it's a lot more kind of round and softer. We only rely on reflection-based surfacing, which is how is the building going to reflect in the car to describe dynamism.
So is this just for the MX-5, or is it going to carry through to your passenger cars, or what? Are you going to diverge?
Sure. Right now, I can't talk about future product, but basically we studied this within the RF, but we kind of stretch it within the RX Vision as a concept cars, and you can see the RX Vision only rely on surface-based, reflection-based surfacing to judge the design of the vehicle. So we're going to broaden that expression, through the next lineup. Yeah. You really like to tune your eyes to understand the differences between those two kind of expression, but think of this one being a lot more kind of organic and only being based on what it's reflecting into it to judge the design. And the other one, you still have some much more crisper line and much more kind of aggressive kind of surfaces in order to show a much more of a directional attitude.
Does this architecture relate in any way to the architecture of the CX-5? The mechanical of it.
They're all different. They're completely different vehicles. Yeah, completely different. Yeah. But yeah, I welcome you guys to kind of walk around. What's interesting is not just to pay attention only on graphics. Usually this is how you judge a vehicle. First, you look at the contouring of the vehicle, and then you're looking at, the outer line of the grille and the outer line of the front lamp to give you, to tell you the expression of the vehicle. If you have a subconscious that really pays attention into the reflection and how those reflections kind of navigates, rather they're very flexible, or they have a lot more kind of rhythm to it. So if you really pay attention to the way the surface work and the reflection works around the vehicle, those reflections is really what triggers that falling in love attributes. So again, if you look around, just trying to pay attention to those reflections.
Could we have an encore performance of you putting the top up?
Again?
Top down.
Okay.